Welcome to a new video. 1 inch versus 1 inch, one giant 1 inch size sensor against a smaller 1 inch size sensor, the Xiaomi 12S Ultra against the Xperia Pro I. Camera review, so let's get started. So the cameras are overshadowing almost everything. The giant bump on the 12S Ultra with, no, this is the ultra wide angle in the middle. The one on the side is the 1 inch size sensor using the full 1 inch size Sony IMX989 sensor. And here we have the triple 12 megapixel setup on the Xperia Pro I with the Sony RX100 Mark VII chip as a 1 inch size sensor, not using the whole 1 inch surface area of this sensor where the IMX989 is really using it. Otherwise, the ultra wide angle 48 megapixel and a periscope zoom that is hiding down there somewhere where the sun flare is now hitting the lens, which has like also 48 megapixels. And of course we have some front-facing shooters, 32 against 8. Yeah, one would say 32 wins, but we have to say that both can only shoot 1080p 30 as a maximum for video. So I think we will start with this one. So we start off with the Sony Xperia Pro I and its front-facing camera, 8 megapixels, only 1080p 30. What you can record, there's no other setting that you can play around with, and it is the weakest sensor on this camera, as you can clearly see. The quality 1080p, I think it is okay, but color castings, problem with high dynamic range. You can see here almost no blue in the background, and if the sun hits hard, my face gets really dark. And this is a big issue on this front-facing shooter. What do you think about stabilization? I think for vlogging in emergency situations, of course you can do it, because you have a headphone jack. You can just plug in your microphone here and then record. This is now the Xiaomi 12S Ultra front-facing camera, and this one has a bit of more punchy colors. I think it handles HDR a little bit better. It has 32 megapixels, so I think for even 1080p 30, it's doing slightly better job than the Xperia. And what happens if I turn to the sun? We'll see in a second. Stabilization test as well. You can see that I think it has a little bit of better HDR. And what do you think about this front-facing cam? And now the main deal on the Xperia Pro I, the 1 inch size sensor. I really like this one. It is the same as on the Sony ZV-1 or RX100 Mark VII, so it is really a very good sensor. We know this already. It handles HDR very well. I think stabilization is better than on a ZV-1 and the RX100 Mark VII. Here definitely on the Xperia Pro I, so they made this really cool. It has an f2 stop right now, but you can also close the aperture to f4, which is pretty nice as well, and I think HDR is handled well as well as the autofocus. The only problem with this one is that it has an issue that you cannot switch to the ultra wide or the zoom lens during recording with the Video Pro app, so you have to stop recording, switch to the ultra wide angle, and now we have the ultra wide angle 16 millimeters, 12 megapixels, 4K 30. It can also record, which is pretty nice, and it's ultra wide. It's ideal for vlogging. Has good sharpness and good colors and stabilization. Overall I like this very much for vlogging. One of the best setups, especially as you can just plug in a microphone to the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack without carrying any dongle, just like I have to carry a dongle on my Xiaomi 12S Ultra. As you can see here, just a dongle, and also you can see here the camera bump and other things, because I can get very close to this lens because it has autofocus. Hopefully everything is nice and sharp. Otherwise, this is the ultra wide angle, and if I want to zoom in on something, I have to stop recording again for going to the zoom lens. And now you can see the zoom lens 50 millimeters, so roughly like almost, some people would say, normal width, photo width. And this is the zoom lens. I think the quality is good on this one. I can digitally crop in a little bit further, so you can see here I can digitally crop into 150 millimeter, but it's like I'm not sure about the quality here, to be honest. And then I can only go down to the 50 millimeters. What do you think about the zoom lens here? And here we have now the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, and I think it might have like a little bit of a different algorithm where it brightens up everything a little bit nicely in comparison to the Xperia. And when I walk here and you see the shadow on my face, I think it might be a little bit brighter than on the Xperia. But yeah, what do you think about this 1-inch sized sensor? It's a very large one. It has 50 megapixels. It's pixel binning it for photos, but for video it can use it for stabilization. It has excellent stabilization as well. It's a Sony sensor, so Sony is making this even here, and yeah, Xiaomi is adding their software to it. What do you think about this one here? How's HDR, how's stabilization, and lens flare? Because this one doesn't have any special T-Star coating, which the Xperia has. So yeah, we have to see how this will look like. The cool thing about this one is here, it has the capability even at 4K 30 that I can switch lenses pretty easily. So I can switch to the ultra wide angle just by sliding down the slider. And now I'm at the ultra wide angle, which is the one in the middle. And this one should, I think, also have autofocus, so we can try out holding the Xperia camera system in here to see if we have or get a decent focus on it, and showing up some elements here on the screen. Hopefully it's working as well. 48 megapixel. I think the sensor size is a bit larger, I'm not so sure. 1/2 inch when I'm not completely mistaken, but you read the specs. Anyway, this is the ultra wide angle. It's pretty ultra wide, and I don't have anything to show you right now because no ship is passing by. But what I can show you is eventually the same kind of zoom capabilities, because this camera system here has a 5x optical zoom. Here we have the scene. Let's zoom in. This is now 1 time. It switched lenses. This is now the 2 times, roughly the same as the Xperia had. And it's a crop on the main sensor. And then we can go further in, and now we are reaching the 5 times beyond. Now it switched lenses again, and you can see it's much sharper than the Xperia. And I can go in further and can see like stuff running there on the bridge. I'm now at 15 times. It's getting a bit unsharp. Let's go here. That's still a bit unsharp, so it's getting a bit unsharp there as well, but I think roughly to 10 times. Yeah, still very usable. It looks on the viewfinder at least. And of course the sweet spot is like the 5 times optical zoom. So what do you think about the video quality of the Xiaomi 12S Ultra? So here we have the photos. The Xiaomi 12S Ultra always on the left and the Xperia Pro I always on the right. The Xiaomi 12S Ultra shot with Leica authentic color profile because it should look authentic, and Sony Xperias tend to look more authentic. So what you can see here on first glance is better HDR handling on the Xperia Pro I, and we can see a bit more contrast and warmer look on the Xperia Pro I. If I zoom in 200%, you can also see that the focus nailed the Xperia Pro I a little bit better. And also the bokeh looks a bit more pleasant, where it's like looking a bit busy here around on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. But you can clearly see that the Xiaomi 12S Ultra is back focusing here, even though we got a focus confirmation. And I was a bit closer by, for sure, but I got focus confirmation on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, and sadly it is not in focus what I wanted to have in focus. So this is a slight bummer. When we take a look at the bokeh and the background, you can clearly see that, yeah, there's a bit more smoother bokeh on this Xiaomi 12S Ultra because it has a larger, it's using the larger sensor size, where the Xperia Pro I is using only 1/1.13 inch of the sensor actually with its lens. So the bokeh is a little bit less pleasant, but it's also f2 versus, I think it's f1.9, I think, on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, they have a slight aperture difference there as well. HDR again, I think the Xperia Pro I is doing a better job. Warmer colors, cooler colors on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. Why is it doing a better job in HDR? One would say, here, it's a brighter picture. Yeah, but we have a haze going on. It's some coating difference on the lens probably. But you can see that I don't like this, and you can also see that it's making stuff a bit unsharp on the 12S Ultra, where, yeah, granted it's a bit darker on the Xperia Pro I, but it's less hazy, less unsharp here. And you can also clearly see it here in the foreground with the HDR, that we have a bit of unsharpness going on, and of course also a bit overblown highlights, a bit too much, where the Xperia Pro I keeps it more. And the Xperia Pro I has an ace up its sleeve. It can stop down to f4 where it can get more details even, and block the sun out a little bit more, and you get lot sharper shot as well, which is pretty awesome as well. Let's take a look at the ultra wide angle. The ultra wide angle, again, we have a bit of warmer look on the Xperia Pro I and a bit of cooler look on the S12 Ultra. We have again this sun flare and haze effect that we don't have so much on the Xperia Pro I thanks to the nice coating. And in general, the ultra wide angle, we can clearly see already some indications that the ultra wide angle is much sharper, and it's not only the sun there. We can check out this later. First, let's check out the zoom range. Native zoom range is 2 times on the Xperia Pro I and it's 5 times on the 12S Ultra. Of course, the 12S Ultra beats the Pro I in terms of zoom range, but when we check out 2 times zoom on the 12S Ultra, which crops into the main sensor against the native 2 times zoom using its own sensor, we can clearly see again cooler colors on the 12S Ultra, more contrasty look, but we can clearly see more details and a bit more warmer and pleasant colors on the Xperia Pro I. When we compare the 5 times zoom, however, which is a crop in onto the telephoto lens, to the 5 times native zoom on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, the Xperia is not handling this so well. You can see the details are a bit lacking, and it has warmer colors here. We have more details on the 12S Ultra, so both in native lens format, of course, are beating the other one in terms of telephoto. When we take a look at the ultra wide angle, we can see a clearly wider field of view on the 12S Ultra and a bit not so wide field of view. We can also see there's more detail again, so it's a bit unsharp on the 12S Ultra all over the view. You can see it here in the brush, you can see it here in the pathway as well. Granted, the Xperia Pro I is using some sharpening applied to this one, but it still uses, it's not over sharpened so much, and it's nice pleasant sharp. You can see stuff going on, and it's especially towards the edges where most ultra wide angle are having some issues. The Xperia also has some issues getting soft, but the 12S Ultra is much worse in this regard. So overall, also I like the not so shadowy kind of view, and everything is nice sharp of the Xperia Pro I. So Xperia Pro I still has one of the best ultra wide angles, and you can clearly see it here. The 12S Ultra, even though it's wider, cannot compete against the Xperia Pro I in terms of ultra wide angle for this comparison. When we take a look at the main sensor, the main deal, the 1-inch sensor on the Xperia Pro I against the 1-inch sensor of the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, even though not the whole 1-inch sensor is used on the Xperia Pro I, it's handling it way better. We have better HDR, we can see it here clearly. We see some blue here in the sky, where here it's overblown white, and all over the place. We can also see the sharpness is much better on the Xperia Pro I. I was searching for a focus point, maybe because of the larger sensor and a bit bigger opening of the aperture. It focused on something else, but I couldn't find anything that is sharper, more clearer on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. Everything is much more sharper and much clearer on the Xperia Pro I. The Xperia Pro I looks much better in my opinion, even though you can argue eventually about the warmer kind of colors and the more bluish kind of colors, which one is more accurate, which one is more pleasant to the eye. More accurate is something probably in between. More pleasant to the eye, I think, is this warmer kind of color. Lowlight shots, the Xperia is using automatic night mode. In this case, the night mode did not kick in, and the Xiaomi 12S Ultra also did not use the night mode here. I was also using automatic mode, which did not activate the night mode. We can see a greenish kind of tint on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. Probably this greenish liquid was used for reference, I don't know. It looks so artificial on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. It's a bit of yellowish on the Xperia Pro I, maybe a bit too yellowish, but it looks much more pleasant, and you can see here also in terms of sharpness much more details again on Xperia Pro I with the main sensor. We can go into the night mode, and night mode improves stuff here. We can see that it's adding a little bit more yellowish kind of color, which is interesting and makes it more close to the Xperia Pro I in this terms. Also brightening things up, but still keeps this like fake kind of color, and is also not improving in terms of sharpness. We have a bit more noise that you can see here already on the Xperia Pro I. Maybe this is the reason the Xperia Pro I leaves a little bit more noise there for improving sharpness. When it comes to ultra low light, really dark night, I couldn't see this with my own eyes. The Xperia Pro I is doing a tremendous job for a Sony device, for sure. You can see something here. The Xiaomi 12S Ultra, however, is brightening things up even more, and you get more details as well, especially here the structure on this case that you cannot see or barely see, maybe here on the top on the Xperia Pro I, because it's brightening things so up on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. Maybe it's doing a little bit too much in terms of noise reduction, because you can see here, especially I think it's smoothed out a little bit too much and a bit unsharp, where the Xperia Pro I keeps a little bit more of noise, and you can see a bit more of texture going on, whichever you prefer. I prefer the a little bit more noise and having a bit more details than the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. Also, I think the colors on the 12S Ultra look a bit artificial again for some reason. Let's take a look at another low light shot. This is not night mode, this is the normal automatic mode on both, and yeah, let's see and compare. What we can see here is a bit of brightened up shadows here, where the Xperia keeps it a little bit darker. What we can also see is the exposure again in HDR looks a bit pleasant on the Xperia Pro I. We can see a bit of more nuances in terms of color here, where we see a bit more of this orange kind of color that is simply missing on the 12S Ultra for some reason. So I think you get much more color information on the Xperia Pro I in this case, and yeah, it's very close, but again you can see here sharpness, Xperia Pro I wins against the 12S Ultra in this case. Let's take a look at another shot here. This is should be the normal cam, and we can zoom in and we can clearly see again both doing a fine job. More yellowish kind of color on the Xperia Pro I. We have a bit more details again on the Xperia Pro I, but a bit more brightened up picture on the 12S Ultra. The ultra wide angle, again the same kind of thing, more yellowish kind of picture on the Xperia Pro I, more bluish kind of picture on the 12S Ultra. And what we can see here is clearly again a little bit more sharpened up picture on the Xperia Pro I, a bit more details to play around with, especially towards the edges where you can see this bridge doesn't look good, but here it also doesn't really look good, and both have noise creeping in. You can see how much more blue the Xiaomi 12S Ultra is here for some reason, and how much more yellowish kind of the Xperia Pro I has this guy, and something in between is probably more accurate in this case. When we take a look at the other side here, again we can see a little bit more color information on the Xperia Pro I, where interestingly enough here it has a bit more blue information here, where the Xiaomi 12S Ultra has a bit more yellowy kind of orangey information. So let's check out the next photo here, which is a zoom shot, 50mm against the 2x zoom on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, and of course the Xperia Pro I, even in night mode, it is using the telephoto lens, and the results speak for themselves. They're much better. Of course, we can go to the 5x zoom, which the Xperia Pro I cannot do or compete with. And even if I crop in here now, you can clearly see, yes, the Xiaomi 12S Ultra is doing a better job in terms of 5x zoom, so nothing changed there. Let's check out this photo, which is pretty interesting because we have warmed up color, but also darker colors on the Xperia Pro I, more noise as well. And the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, it looks a bit more pleasant to the eye on the first look. A bit more bluish again, but when I zoom in, you can also see less noise, less sharpening as well. We have much more noise on the Xperia Pro I. I was taking this in manual mode on the Xperia Pro I, automatic mode on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. Maybe this is the thing. But what I like really is the bokeh balls in the background of the Xperia Pro I. They look really present, I have to say. And it's Xiaomi 12S Ultra also has nice looking bokeh balls there. In general, I think because the Xperia shot has a bit more flair of nighttime, and the Xiaomi 12S Ultra shot could be like, it looks like it would be done like much earlier in the day. And then another shot to compare just here, the sharpness, and you can see that again more noise on the Xperia Pro I and a little bit less noise on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, but also not so sharp. And then we can also compare the sky and the night photography here. In this case, the sun is in the background and we have really night photography there. Now we have a bit brighter picture on the Xperia Pro I, which is pretty interesting, I found. And also we have a bit of vignetting effect, but this is, I think, the Leica authentic mode, but with a bit more bluish kind of color as well here. And when I zoom in here, you can clearly see as well, another thing is like a bit more noise in the Xperia Pro I for sure, and more details. It has more details, a bit more strict structure here, and where the trees, you cannot see so much of the structure of the trees or this bridge there in the background. where you can see it on the Xperia Pro I a little bit more. So there's a little bit of more denoising filter going on in the 12S Ultra that is changing this stuff. And by the way, the 12S Ultra has a very bad calibrated display by default, because what I saw on the 12S Ultra is this. This is a picture of the Xperia Pro I. I had it in my hand, and this is what I saw on the 12S Ultra. I was thinking, can I reproduce the Xiaomi 12S Ultra look? And yeah, I can do it pretty easily by changing the white balance. And here you can see the white balance is now very, very blue. And you can, if you want to, with Pro mode and on both devices, of course, change everything up. And here I think I did not even change this. I changed it a little bit less. The shutter speed I put a bit higher, so a bit lower, I mean, so I have a bit more information to play with. And here you can see, yes, it is looking sharper and very, very nice. Both are doing a fine job, I would say, but in everyday usage I prefer the Xperia Pro I a little bit better, because I think the 1-inch sensor there and the lens especially are doing a much nicer job than on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra. What do you think about my findings? Last but not least, also a video in low light conditions, and this is the Xiaomi 12S Ultra here right now with its internal microphone, so you can hear how good they are picking up my sound. So what do you think about the quality here of the 1-inch sensor on the Xiaomi 12S Ultra in this low light condition? And now the Xperia Pro I in its main back camera, 1-inch sized sensor, f2, and the back mono mic. How does it sound like? How does it look like in comparison to the Xiaomi 12S Ultra? What do you think? So which one is the clear winner for you, the Xiaomi 12S Ultra or the Xperia Pro I? I will be surprised reading what you are writing down in the comment section. I don't want to decide right now which one is the clear winner. I might have my preference, but maybe I will tell you later about this one. So which is the clear winner for you? Just write it down in the comment section, and until the next time. Bye.